Thank you, Senator Padilla. Senator Sinema, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you to our witnesses for joining us today. The counter-drone, or CUAS, authorities expiring this October are critical to our homeland security. These authorities allow DHS and DOJ to protect Arizona's critical infrastructure and communities. As chair of this committee's border subcommittee and the Commerce Committee's aviation subcommittee, I'm also keenly aware of the threats posed by drones to our nation's borders and airports. In Arizona, cartels are using drones to smuggle drugs across the border in an attempt to evade law enforcement. And across our nation, there are too many examples of drones blocking flight paths and even shutting down airports. We must maintain and enhance our nation's CUAS capabilities while also safeguarding privacy and the rights of legitimate drone users. I look forward to working with the chairman, the administration, and my colleagues to do just that. So my first question about future threats is for Mr. Wigman and Ms. Vinograd. Drone technology is rapidly evolving, and while most drones currently rely on RF technology, in the future, more advanced drones may become the norm. At DOJ and DHS, what are you doing to prepare for the drone-related threats of the future, including autonomous unmanned systems and drone swarms that could conduct synchronized operations? And as Congress considers reviewing the existing CUAS authorities, what can we do to help you research and mitigate these threats?
Senator, thank you. As you mentioned, the technology is evolving incredibly rapidly, and that is why the Department of Homeland Security, we have designated research testing and evaluation efforts Senator, we agree that the technology is evolving incredibly rapidly, and what the Department of Homeland Security is committed to is trying to stay ahead of that evolving threat. We do so through our Science and Technology Directorate, where we are engaged in a significant amount of critical research testing and evaluation, such that we can try to stay ahead of the curve as it pertains to the evolving technology. In addition, as my colleague Mr. Weigman mentioned, we are seeking exemption from Title 18 such that we can ensure that we have the ability to keep pace and or stay ahead of the evolving threat environment as this technology rapidly increases and candidly proliferates the kinds of threats that drones may pose to the American people and to the homeland.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that other than we obviously work with our colleagues at DHS and DOD also in technology kind of working groups to make sure that we're doing the best we can to have the state-of-the-art technology to counter this threat.
Thank you. Ms. Vinograd, as chair of the Border Subcommittee and the Aviation Subcommittee, I'm particularly concerned about the threat that drones pose to our border and our airports. If the current CUAS authorities expire in October, can you discuss the impact that would have on our border security?
The expiration of existing counter-UAS authorities would be catastrophic from a border security perspective. Our counter-UAS authorities currently allow for critical counter-UAS operations at our borders, and the expiration of those authorities would allow a range of adversaries, including transnational criminal organizations, to increase their malicious use of drones to engage in smuggling, surveillance, and other malicious activities.
Thank you. My third question for Ms. Vinograd and Ms. Coltis, can you describe how the administration's legislative proposal would help protect airports and flight paths from drones, and specifically, how do the current gaps in the federal government's CUAS authorities hinder your agencies from achieving this?
I will say that of all the things that keep me awake at night, I am one that is foremost on my mind is the potential for a major tragedy at an airport. We currently, at the Department of Homeland Security, work in close partnership with the FAA at airports. However, DHS, the Transportation Security Agency, or TSA, lacks the authority to engage in proactive or persistent CUAS operations at airports. What that means is TSA is not authorized to be on the ground at airports engaging in proactive detection and as necessary proactive mitigation. I will tell you just from a threat perspective, we've had 2,000 sightings of drones in and around airports since 2021. In 2021 and 2022 year to date, we've had 64 evasive actions by aircraft, including 4 commercial carriers taking evasive action, Senator. We've had 30 airport disruptions just in 2021. This already amounts in significant economic damage and a potential for a real loss of human life. I'm very concerned about the lack of explicit authority at airports. That is why we are seeking explicit authority for TSA to engage in proactive and persistent detection and mitigation in close partnership with FAA.
And to build off of my colleague from DHS, obviously the number one priority for the FAA is the safety and security of the airspace. And around airports, we too are very concerned about the number of drone sightings that we consistently see across this country. We're working very closely with our DHS partners, and the FAA is supportive of expanding the authorities to TSA to give them the authority to be able to do not just the detection, but the mitigation if necessary at the airport environment.
Thank you. My next question is for Mr. Wigman. Like all technologies, drones hold both promise and peril. The same drones that our adversaries could use to surveil a sensitive government facility can be used by journalists to shoot footage for the news and to hold government accountable. So I know that DOJ has devoted considerable time and resources to ensuring that privacy and civil liberties are protected during CUAS operations. Can you discuss some of these safeguards, and how often are drones that enter restricted airspace actually interdicted, and when they are, what data is intercepted and for how long?
Okay, so under the statute, we can only intercept data that is necessary for countering a threat. So as I mentioned in my opening testimony, what we're typically talking about is, I have a list here of the types of data. The drone vendor and model, the drone and controlling device serial number, the geolocation of the drone, the location of the controller, and the most recent takeoff location and home location. So we're not talking about content of communications. We're talking about metadata, signals, information, essentially, that the drone is generating that allow us to find out where it is, where it's going, where it's been, and who's controlling it, so that we can hopefully, interdict it. Once we collect that information in the ordinary course, if it's not of any use, we discard that information right away. But under the statute, we can only keep it as long as is necessary, and in no event longer than 180 days, unless it's necessary to keep it longer for a specific purpose, like for a criminal investigation, if someone has violated airspace and we need the information in order to pursue a criminal investigation or prosecution. So all of this is laid out in existing law, in the statute. The restrictions on what you can collect, how long you can retain it, and when you can disseminate it are all in the statute, and those would be carried over under the new bill. So we would continue all of those same privacy protections under the new bill, and they would also be applied to state and locals. So to the extent state and locals are engaged in the same activity under the pilot program, they would also be bound to respect all of those privacy protections. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Sinema. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our witnesses once again for participating in today's hearing and in discussing